So welcome back to the WideFox build. One of the things I needed to do to be able to get this back to sealed tight for water leaks is to reseal these quarter windows. So on every 4eye, you've got a set of quarter windows that are held from the inside with a 1/4 inch fastener. There are 6 of them, and I'm going to show you how to remove them, take this window out, reseal it, and put it back in to get it back watertight. Now, before you start taking off your fasteners, all 6 fasteners, I'm going to say they are all different shapes. So take a Sharpie and mark them 1 through 6. Start however you want to. Like for me, I'm doing the forward half upper is 1, the next one lower is 2, and I'm going around all the way up to 6. When I take those off, the screws are all the same, but then I know 1 goes up there, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't have to worry about trying to figure out what went where and all that and which way they were. Obviously, the inside with the writing makes sense, right? If it's got writing, it's on the inside. And you'll know numerically where they go. So take that out of the equation of, I forgot what to do and everything else. Do it now. Now, once you got that done, it's pretty easy to take them off. Start with your upper ones and then move towards your lowers. And just remember, the glass is bonded in there. It's got butyl in there, which is holding it. And the glass shouldn't fall out, but just be prepared. It may start to lean in, and just be ready. Just catch it, take it out. All right, so my quarter windows, honestly, are still sealed pretty well, other than a couple spots up in here where the trim actually poked through the butyl. So it's going to take a little extra work for me to get mine off, and it may for you also. So once you have the fasteners on, you'll probably notice that the quarter windows are not going to come off easily. So I took all my trim off on the outside, and I'm using basically my trim tool. And the goal here is to basically push the butyl down and kind of get it away. So I'm doing it piece by piece all along, and I'm just doing it around the edge. And the goal is to kind of push between the butyl and the window so that I can separate them. And doing that each along the way, you'll start to get to the point where the window is going to have flexibility. Just keep doing it all the way around until that point where you reach the circumference, and then you'll notice it's got some flexibility. You can then use this on a pry. The only reason I'm not just prying it out of there is because it's glass. And I'm using plastic because it's less likely to scratch either the paint or the glass itself. So be delicate. Remember, it's glass. Don't break these things out because, well, then you got a really big mess. So just take your time, do the circumference, and then they'll come out, and then we'll get to cleaning them. Booyah. Alright, now as you're taking this out, one thing to note is that the butyl does actually have a kind of like a thick string inside of it. I couldn't really get a good grip on it from the inside or the outside. And really it's meant to, when you pull it, it's meant to basically break the bond between the butyl and the window and the metal. Now, I really couldn't do that, so I used basically the tool there to pry it out. Now, once you do that, you'll notice that your window is going to have butyl all over it. Now, I'm just using a simple razor blade, and I'm just sitting in my lap, and I'm just using this to scrape off the surface. You just have to be delicate. You're just trying to get most of the butyl off with the razor blade, so you don't have to dig into the glass or anything else. And then once you have this cleaned up, you can then go and get the butyl off the car itself. Same thing, you can use a razor blade if you want. Just be careful, you're going to scratch the paint if you go too deep on it. But you just want to get the butyl off of everything, and then once it's there, you can use like acetone or something else to wipe off the surface of the window and get it ready and degreased and cleaned to be able to put butyl back on it later. Now, when you're taking the butyl off the metal, honestly, the best luck I've had is to pull on it and then kind of shake it back and forth. Pull, shake, and what it's doing is it's basically coming off in chunks. It's like a thick piece other than that, obviously. But you'll get it in like thick chunks like this where it comes off. So just pull a little bit and just keep pulling it back and forth, wiggling it, and it's really coming off pretty easily off the metal. All right, so I've put the glass back in, and what I've done is I've put in the brackets on the back. Now what you're looking to do is when you fill this in is what you want to do is you want to put butyl obviously from the sill here, the window sill, between the glass. Now this here I just measured out so that it's going to take butyl in here. The only reason I'm showing you this, just so you know kind of what you're doing, is you're going to put butyl in here to where it seals this against this. So now in my car, the worst case scenario is at 6 millimeters between the glass and the sill. So now when you convert 6 millimeters over to English standard units, what that's going to be is it's roughly a 1/4 inch. Between a 1/4 inch and 5/16, and those are basically the two sizes you can find for butyl a lot of times. So it's kind of up to you. I've seen people say they've used either 1/4, 5/16, 3/8, or whatever else. It's really kind of up to you how you want to do it. You can double up butyl. I mean, you can add a little bit. You can double stack it. You get some 1/4 inch. If it doesn't fit well enough, double stack it, squish it. The goal is just to seal it, honestly. So once you start getting ready to do this, you'll put your trim back on so you know where your clips are. Make sure you have butyl between the clips and the metal, and then you can then line the metal on the inside with butyl before you put your window in. Make sure you do it on the metal versus doing it on the window, because the window is meant to float back and forth. It's got plenty of overlap to the metal, so make sure you put the butyl on the metal, because that you at least know where it's supposed to be, and then allow your window to float to cover it, and then it will be sealed once you put your brackets back on. Now before I put my butyl on, I'm going to put my trim back on, so I have already done mine. I did have somebody ask specifically how to take off and put on the trim. So the first piece to take off on the window trim itself is going to be the bottom, and the last piece to put on is going to be the bottom. In order to take this off, you're going to use the front corner here, and this is just going to go straight up. And then once it goes up, you can rotate it out this way. You can't pull up this way because you're going to push into this. You can't go this way. So bottom piece to take off goes up, and you're going to pull it up kind of towards this corner. Now these other pieces here are kind of together. They're connected. This back section, so the back angle and the top, it is all one piece that's not going to want to release itself. This piece here, this vertical piece, there's a connector joining these two. Now, if you see these things in their natural habitat, of course mine are wraps, so it's a little harder to see, but you can take this one here and pull this away. Now, pull the bottom away when you're removing, and then you can start to jiggle this out. It's really difficult. Just be gentle with it. Remember, this is all plastic, and this up here is a pot metal, or it's cast. I should say cast. Cast aluminum piece here that holds this corner together on the pieces. So you can just take this loose, wiggle it, and then you can start kind of pulling this out and then this down. And that should be easy enough to take them out. Now, of course, reinstallation is the opposite. So this corner goes in, then this one, and then this upper piece goes in, and of course then the bottom. So the bottom goes down, and then you snap this piece in last. Now I can go on to my butyl. All right, so I've got my butyl pulled in, and I just want to make a couple notes for you guys. Where I have started and finished this is at the top of the window, and that's the center clip here. And if you notice, basically what I did is I started there and I went around. Now you got to remember, the goal is to seal this as best you can. There are definitely some holes down in there. You can add a little extra butyl in corners if you need to. The goal is just to seal it. Now if water does get between, I guess if it does leak and go inside the metal, what it's going to do is it's going to go down into the wheel well, and then it's going to go down here. I can show this. It's going to go down in here where your drain goes in. So it's got a drain. It's not going to sit in there and rust your inner body out. But the butyl itself, I've just done as best I can to seal it up going through that way. You've got a couple areas you can do a little joggle around, around to the corner, and then right there where your clips are, you're just going to have to go over them. There's almost no way to go around it to seal up a window. Once you come back all the way around the corner, you can just go up. Now you can butt those together right there, or you can do like I did where you just make it come in and go over top. Don't go under, because you can then, what will happen is water can come in and you want to block this. So if water goes up this way, it's not going to go around and flow up and in and out. If you go under, what it can do is then it can spray in and actually go around. So just remember, you're just trying to seal it as best you can. And now I can put the window in. So here's what your finished product should look like. You should have, if you looked at your glass, you should have a good wet out all the way down. Your butyl is normally round. It should now be flat. So you can see that there. See how flat that is against that? You know that it's sitting on the glass. It's a good wet out piece. All the way around the window. Now, one thing to note is that I test fit my window up onto the butyl prior to putting my brackets on. One thing I found was that in a couple spots, I had over squished the butyl and it was not going to touch the window, which means if I would have put the brackets on, I would have had a leak, and all of this was for naught. It wasn't worth it. The butyl is the whole reason you're doing this. Yes, you do not want to have a black booger sticking out for your quarter trim or anywhere else, but the whole reason to do this is because you're resealing it. I chose to run a second line of butyl, literally just stacked it on top of each other. And so I took the window out, which again messed up the path, so I had to reset the butyl to the metal. I then stacked a second layer of butyl on top of the first, which now was about, a quarter before, so you're looking at a half? Whatever, you do the math, but it's basically two of those. The goal there was I wanted to overstack to where the window and the metal were going to touch. And when I squished the window on there, basically what it does is it compresses the butyl down and basically makes a very tight sandwich. That is the condition you want. That is why you can see on the window how flat it is. It has now gone from round to flat, meaning I have compressed the butyl and made it squish out so it will squeeze into all the little crevices and it will not leak. If you buy a 15-foot roll of the 3M stuff, you'll have plenty left, so don't worry about it. You're not going to run out. So it's up to you. You can try it first and see if it's going to work, or you can just go straight to the double stack method, put the window in, and then use your fingers and your palms to squeeze the edges, not the middle, squeeze the edges directly over where the butyl is, all the way around. And honestly, at that point, it's going to hold it in, and then you can just put your brackets on. The brackets are secondary. They're a mechanical hold, but really the butyl, if you wet it out properly, that window is not going to come out without a fight. The brackets itself, they're just kind of secondary, and they're there. Now, once the window's all back in with the brackets, you can just use some window cleaner and clean it out, and that is pretty much it. So you just make sure, remember, you don't want the big black booger sticking up out of your trim. That just looks tacky. So just be careful. Remember, it's all about keeping it clean and then keeping the path where the window and everything else. The window's got overlap. Don't worry about that. Put it right to the edge of the metal. Squeeze it out. Make sure it's got a good, clear seal wet out to the window and the metal. And then forget it. You'll put your trim back in and you probably will never touch these things again unless like you're going to be like me and you take the trim off 17 times to keep messing with it. And then I'll just redo it. So now the kit I did use is the window weld ribbon sealer. You can probably get these at most of your auto stores or anybody that does body work, body supplies. It's part number 8610, 8610. That's what I use. It's 1/4 inch, 15 feet long. One box is enough to do both quarter windows, and it's the same stuff I used also on the taillights of WideFox. So I've got an extra little bit of this, so I'll do it for the other window, but one box for a pair of quarter windows is plenty. So the job is honestly pretty simple, and if you guys have questions before you take anything off, you know what to do. Drop me a comment, send me a message. I got you. It's really pretty easy, so don't fret that you're going to mess it up. It's really pretty easy. Just wet everything out, and it'll be golden. So that's it from this time on WideFox. I got the other window to do, and then obviously I've got a bunch of wiring, and this thing is going to make some noise eventually. So that's it. Basin Motorsports. We'll see you next time.
You will see.